Welcome, everybody, to the Barry Beat podcast, live from 802 Scoop and Barry Beat podcast. In the studio today, we have the ever lovely Raylene, and of course, Don Koch. How you doing, Don?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. How's things been going on the campaign?
Going well. I'm feeling really good about things.
Good.
That's always good to hear.
Absolutely. So we wanted to get you back on and give you another opportunity to tell everyone about yourself. So let's
spread your message.
Yes. So Don Koch, why are you running for Washington Senate?
I'm running because it's become impossible for so many average Vermonters to continue to be Vermonters. Affordability is the number one issue this year, and it encompasses so many different areas of governance and what the legislature's been doing, what they've been screwing up, and we just need to fix it. We need to support the governor.
Yeah, that's I've seen several of the ads online about him endorsing candidates. Mm-hmm. He really is asking the citizens of Vermont to help him out this year and to elect people like you, like Michael,
like you.
Yep. To really be that central kind of governance model that he's looking for, and that he has himself tried to be as governor.
Right.
So we can go down all the wonderful questions. Certainly, I know that we've talked before about the clean heat standard.
Yes.
And I'm it's going to be it's important for folks to know. So why don't you tell us your thoughts on the clean heat standard?
Well, it's an absolutely unaffordable mess that they've created, and if I'm elected, when we vote on that in January on whether to go ahead with implementing that standard, I will be a hard no. I will not vote for that horrible bill. I will vote to kill it. Ordinary Vermonters just simply cannot afford it. Mm-hmm. We can't afford to pay double the cost for our heating fuel. And they're promising us that that's just the beginning. They're going to come after transportation fuels and other forms of energy next.
Yeah, it's a huge misconception, and the information is out there, of course, that's all a hoax, that it won't affect us financially and that it won't increase our bills. And, I hear those commercials as well, but how can it not?
It will. There's no avoiding it. It will significantly raise the cost of our fuel, and we just simply can't afford it. We're getting bombarded with taxes, and this carbon credit fee that they're talking about is a tax. They'll tell you it's not a tax, but it sure smells like one. It looks like one. It is one.
If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck,
it's a duck.
So regarding that, I know that the numbers that have been thrown out there is $4 additional in heating fuel. And as a trucker, as a truck driver, is trucker derogatory? I don't know.
No, okay. I'm a trucker.
He's a trucker.
For now.
For now. So, as a trucker, a truck driver, the clean heat standard, would that also have any impact on diesel for the trucks?
I don't believe so. No, that is targeted towards heating fuel, which is off-road diesel, propane, natural gas, whole different assortment of fuels used for heating homes, and not just heating homes, but now we're learning the propane bottle, the 1 pound propane bottles you buy in the hardware store for
The grill or anything else.
your camp grill. So the hardware store across the street, Nelson's for example, they sell the 1 pound bottle. They will have to register as a fuel dealer, and they will have to pay for those carbon credits if this goes through. Just to sell those 1 pound bottles, which, I mean, as a truck driver, you know, those are packaged for individual use. That's something called hazardous materials ORMD, or otherwise regulated material domestic. Because it's in domestic packaging, it's not subject to the hazmat requirements. But yet the places that sell these are going to have to register as fuel dealers. They're not going to get a similar exemption from those regulations, and it's crazy.
So I'm befuddled by the comment about how it's not going to affect the diesel prices for trucks. And I know that for me, when a couple years back, I was struggling with paying for fuel, and to get on the plan, it takes a lot to. You have to be in good standing, which, you know, when you don't have a lot of money, it's hard to get there. You know, people that are struggling financially don't have a lot of money sometimes to pay the big fuel. Anyway, so that being said, we would run out of fuel, and we would go up to like Maple Woods and fill from the diesel up there. So the fuel would be $4 coming from Irving or Suburban or whatever, at $4 extra over the. And of course, this is all hypothetical,
right?
And I apologize. That would be really odious for folks that are, you know, struggling to get by, which is the reason why you want to kill it.
And I don't know how it would affect the off-road diesel, which is the same as your number 2 heating oil. It's marketed differently. It's given a different UN number on the placards, depending on its use. I think the off-road diesel may have some kerosene mixed in with it to help keep it from gelling in the winter.
Yeah.
But they're specifically targeting, with the clean heat standard, heating fuel. But as I said, they're not done. They're planning on coming after transportation fuels at a later time. So this is just their starting point.
I know my aunt who lives in Canada, she was telling me that they pay $6 a gallon up there, and I think theirs is to cover health insurance, which you know, maybe I would feel a little bit different if we were increasing it to give universal health care or something, but that's not what we're doing. You know, yeah, the clean heat standard, Glenn says it right here. We need to kill it dead.
Yeah. We have to be careful of those words, or Facebook is going to do that to us. So I just replied to his comment, and
I should not have said that.
But already it's not allowing me to reply, I think, to his comments. So yeah, it did. So, but we have to be really careful of what we're using for terms.
So I do apologize, folks, for saying it. You know, apparently, I thought.
No, it's the Facebook gods, you know, the community standards, and they will, because they don't actually listen, it's just a robot listening to us that is saying that we said those words, so they will think that we're doing harm.
Our big robotic brother.
Right. So we just got to be careful of the terms we use. Yeah.
We need to squash it for real.
There you go.
That's right.
Yes.
There you go.
That's good.
Yes. Thanks for understanding.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Folks, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat so that we can ask Dawn. We're definitely we definitely would like to answer some questions for you. Raylene, do you want to?
Well, I want to elaborate on this whole thing a little bit, and just to say that I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, right now we're talking about heating fuel, but what's next? And so if the, you're just in the door, so why not go? Isn't that what we say in everything in life? You just got to get your foot in the door, right?
The 0.44% tax that they just added to the payroll tax that they just created to fund education, child care. That's just a foot in the door.
Yeah.
That's another tax, another new tax that they can later target for increases, and they're doing that. It's just 0.44%. That's such a tiny amount. It doesn't matter. Everybody can afford that. That's their mentality. They keep raising. They have something they want to fund. The money's not there. We'll just raise taxes, and that's what they're doing. And now this clean heat fee that they're not calling a tax, but it's a tax. We have to pay for it.
And it will trickle down, no matter how small people think it is. When we talk about even the little 1 pound units in the trades, how many of those are used for blowtorches and other equipment? And the cost of those things are going to go up, which maybe it all is insignificant at first, but it all adds up.
Where's the straw that breaks the camel's back?
Exactly.
And I think we're if we're not there already, we're getting very close, and I think the voters are seeing that.
Yeah. Can we talk about crime now?
Yes, I was just going to ask, only because go for it.
Well, just in general, we see there seems to be, though a lot of people are denying this fact, but there seems to be a lot more crime right now, not just in and around the city, but in and around Vermont. And we see a lot of catch and release. And unfortunately, our law enforcement takes the brunt of the abuse when it comes to that, when it really doesn't, it's not anything they have to do with. They're just as frustrated as me, you, or anybody else with that. So it comes down to all of you in Montpelier. And where do you see things as far as maybe bail reform, sentencing reform, more mandatory sentences, and definitely some mandatory or at least long-term treatment facilities for people who are suffering from substance use disorder, and just the revolving door of that.
Well, I actually put a opinion piece out a couple weeks back, I think 3 weeks back, on that specific issue, and on crime and punishment. It's posted on my website. Anybody can view it. And it went out on to my newsletter. People on my newsletter list. You can also sign up for that on my website. But yeah, we were constrained by the Supreme Court on that and what the purpose of bail is, and we need to make some changes to our Constitution and our bail laws to make it so that repeat violent offenders, people who keep getting released by the court and violating their conditions of release, and violent offenders not subject to life in prison, which somebody's facing a crime of life in prison, a sentence of life in prison, they can already be held without bail. But other than certain limitations or provisions where that's allowed, the Supreme Court has stated that bail can only be used to ensure that somebody shows up. But that ignores that, somebody ran from the cops when they were trying to stop them. That's a sign of flight. People keep ignoring their conditions of release and violating them, and they get hauled in and they released on the condition that they not violate the
Conditions
conditions
that they
that they've already
conditioned.
violated multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's just a revolving door that needs to be locked. We need to take care of that. It's going to take a constitutional amendment, which can't be done begin until 2027. So we can start working on it, on formulating what to propose. In the meantime, we just can't introduce it until the next legislative biennium after this one, just because of how the law is written around constitutional amendments, referendums.
So, Don, you recently did a statement on affordable housing, and I did drop in the chat for folks Don's webpage for you to go to, and it has a boatload of blogs, or not blogs, but papers that you've done for people to take a look at. I see climate change, and I see the affordable housing. So, affordable housing is definitely a hot topic item here in the state of Vermont. What's your take on affordable housing?
Well, we have people that want to buy homes or build homes. We have builders willing to build them, people that want to have them built, but we don't have the land to build them on because of the restrictions, the permitting, red tape makes it impossible to find suitable land. So how do we find that suitable land? We ease the restrictions on those permits. That has to be done in part by reforming Act 250. The legislature last year, the supermajority, they're very proud of what they did in carving out Act 250 exemptions in downtown areas. And as Senator Cummings said on another interview, to build where we want you to build. And she actually said that. They made it easier for people to build where we, as in the majority in the State House, want you to build. Well, where do we want to build? Maybe we want to build out in the country. Now, there are considerations if you're building large developments. There's considerations that have to be taken into factor there. Access to sewer and water, public water is a factor that's separate from the Act 250 discussion, but that's another permit that has to be has to be obtained. But you have this whole myriad of permits that have to be obtained, and you can only do them in a certain order. You have to get one permit before you can get the next permit, and they might not even tell you about that next permit. So you got your environmental review, and that's signed off, and okay, you have to do the Act 250, and once that gets signed off, then you get the development review board or whatever, the town zoning permits, and everyone wants to look back and see that you have the previous permit, and it just takes years and years, and just one person can file a grievance and challenge that permit that was just issued, and it goes through a review process and goes to court, and then if they lose, then they can take it to the Supreme Court, and that takes a challenge, and then they lose that, and then they find another permit to appeal.
And they're paying for all of this the whole way through, each permit.
The builder is footing the cost of defending those, defending those challenges. Maybe there needs to be something after a certain point where the person challenging, if they keep getting turned down, maybe the person challenging needs to, if they lose, needs to pay for those lawsuits, because that's just getting passed on to the builder is going to pass it on to the homeowner when it eventually gets sold to the resident. But these permits can take years. I was reading about something the last week, I think it was, somebody that proposed a housing project, I think 10 years ago, and it hasn't even begun construction because of the permitting process. This is down in the southern part of the state. But it's just ridiculous. And Act 250 is where we need to start. There's other factors in that as well, but it's the biggest challenge, I think, is the permitting and the red tape involved.
So I know Act 250, there's a lot of discussion on it. And, how do you deal with it? Do you get rid of it all, or do you see any good in it, or what do you think?
Well, Act 250 is a very complex law, and I don't fully understand it. I don't have that answer, but I think it was designed to be something that's difficult to dismantle. And it might be something that we just have to scrap and start from scratch. I mean, yeah, we don't want the billboards. That's one thing that Act 250 does. So we have to pass a law, for instance, that would continue to ban those billboards. But the other problem, and I forgot to mention it with Act 250, and the problems is, and it started off as a good law, but it's the administration of it and the board that manages it and stuff. And so we had a volunteer board of 5 people that were, I think it was the Act 250 Review Board, I think is what it was called, I forget. But it was 5 volunteers, appointees, and they were having trouble keeping up with open meeting law, public notice, comment periods and stuff like that. It was making it difficult for them to do their jobs. So what the legislature did last year is actually expanded Act 250 by creating a new 5-member professional full-time board of bureaucrats to administer the Act 250 program. That's their job. That's what they'll be doing every day. They don't have to call they don't have to post public notice of what they're doing because they're doing it all the time, and they can bypass the public comment stuff. So it was something designed to create more bureaucrats and sidestep public comment and public notice. That's not how rulemaking should take place in Vermont.
Or anywhere. Yeah.
No, definitely not. But it from what I've heard from people, and it's all anecdotal, is that it used to be different and better, and it's just bloated. Would that be correct?
Yeah, it's just progressively gotten worse with how it's administered, and the law itself isn't the problem per se, but how it's administered. And
so something about that's gotten worse only in the last, since the dawn of creation, is our education spending, which is a huge hot topic for folks. I know that we've talked about education and
Yep.
and what are your thoughts about education spending? Because that is going to be a huge topic in conversation come January
Right.
7th, I think.
It's another thing where I've put out a paper, and I'm coming up with another one to be released shortly on the topic. But we need to figure out what the other 49 states are doing. They're all we're the only state that does it the way we do it. All 49 other states do it differently than we do it for funding our schools, and largely they're getting better results. Their performance in schools is better. We've got 8 students to a teacher right now
I want to say it's 4, Don.
Okay,
I
even
wanna
worse.
say it's
Even
4.
worse.
I might be wrong on that. Maybe not teachers, but like staff in general.
Right.
I think it's 4 because I know in the BUUSD there's about 2,400 children, and we have about 520 employees.
Okay.
And I think that's like the statewide average.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me on it, folks. I only know our schools.
Right. So when I was a kid, they were screaming that we needed smaller class sizes. I think we had 30 students in a class or something like that, and that was difficult on the teachers. So yeah, we needed to go smaller. But now our student to teacher ratio is completely the other direction, and we can't afford that. I think we need to make the class size bigger again. Not, of course, to up to 30, but when I was in high school, I think it was 16 to 20 students per class.
Yeah, that's
and I
about
think
what
that
it was
pretty
when I was
decent.
too.
I gave you information incorrectly, and I do apologize for that. It's overall staffing, the 1 to 4.
Okay.
I know in the BUSD the average class sizes are between like 13 and 20. I think that's about the average.
So
when
that's
you
about
look
what
at
we
them.
had.
Yeah, that's maybe a
Us
little
old timers.
Yeah, and I think we were closer to 18 to 20.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't have the firm numbers, but we need to look at our class size, our student to staff ratio, and I think we have top-heavy administrations that we don't need necessarily so many, and these are just ideas, so many superintendents over all the schools. We might need to look at, and we have to balance it with local control versus consolidation. And we may need to do some additional consolidation just to keep it financially feasible. Now, the consolidation we did a few years ago that we were all forced into isn't working. And so people are going to scream bloody murder when we talk, and I hope I didn't say the wrong thing there for the Facebook bot. But the people aren't going to like further consolidation, and I'm not sure that that's the solution, but it's something we need to look at. We need to look at all options, see what the other 49 states are doing differently and how it's working, and try to come up with the best points. And I don't know which state's model is the best, but you know, I'm not an expert on it, so I need to learn as well. I need to listen to the experts. I need to listen to the voters. And
that's something that we don't have right now. We
Right.
need somebody that's willing to be open-minded and listen to all the solutions and look outside of Vermont and look at what other people are doing that works and
Exactly.
how are we going to move forward with this so
Right.
that we're not smothering people.
Right. I need to listen to the people that send me to Montpelier and communicate back to them and with them, which is something that's not happening with our Democratic representatives and senators right now.
So I know that within the city, there's some reps that are talking about how they want to shift the education cost from property taxes to income taxes. Do you have any
Something
any
I
thoughts
agree
on
with.
that?
I've actually proposed that in one of my opinion pieces, that currently it's paid by the property tax, and our property taxes are just skyrocketing year after year. and you saw the result of how that worked in Vermont this year. I think we need to move away from funding our schools primarily from property taxes to a baseline funding where the money follows the student. So a little local control, a little parental control. If the school in your town isn't performing up to your standards, maybe you send the student to another school in the area. And if we talk with the consolidation, there might be multiple choices within that district. If say we consolidate on a county level or something like that, or we have a couple counties that may be too small to have a county district, but like Grand Isle and Franklin County maybe would form a district together, but Chittenden County is so big that maybe they need more than one district. But how that would look, we don't know yet. It's something to consider. But looking at those school districts, maybe there'll be multiple high schools in that district, and a parent could choose which of those schools to send their child to, and the money from the state for that baseline funding would follow that student, and it would be the same across the board, because the Brigham decision mandates the equality, and we're constrained by the Brigham decision, which is the cause of everything we're going through right now. So that money follows the student, but it would be a baseline. And my idea, and it's been brought up by others, is to have that funded by income tax. And then it's being funded by people based on their income and their ability to pay, rather than the value of their property. I think it's a more equitable way of doing it. More people would be paying into the pot, because anybody who's working would be paying for that, not just people who are homeowners or renters. So that would be a baseline funding, and then if a school district or a school in a certain town, whatever, wants additional funding for a special program or something that's not provided for in that baseline, there might be possibility for an optional local option. I shouldn't say optional, it would be mandatory for everybody in the town, but a local option property tax to supplement that. And then stuff like special ed is a special situation that should be fully funded by the state, separate from the school budget. And I think that's one way we can go about addressing this skyrocketing inflationary system that we have going right now.
So if we talk about that, we talk about everyone paying and everybody paying the same amount. Just because I know this is a question on a few people's minds, what are your thoughts as far as those taxes maybe ending at the age of 65 or 70 with those people that are on a fixed income and that already have their Social Security or other income taxed? In other states, they don't tax Social Security, but here they still do.
Right. So I believe that taxing Social Security income is double taxation. People have been paying tax on their income when they work all their lives, and then suddenly when they draw that money back, they're being taxed on it again. It's paid for by taxes. They've already paid the tax on that. So I am against the taxation of Social Security income, and I would vote to exempt that from taxes.
Yeah, I think that means a lot to a lot of people, especially when you get into the conversation about even education. It's just more funding that they're always trying to come up with.
Yeah.
More, they're still contributing to this income tax, and it's not an income. This is money they've paid in their whole lives, and
Right.
now they're just trying to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you said, fixed income. There's not any more coming in to give.
Nope.
Well, it's an intriguing idea of the mixing of the income tax with the property tax to supplement, like, additional, costs that a district may want to incur above
Yep.
a set rate.
And I don't know if that is the solution, but it's something we need to look at.
Well, and that's the thing. And as folks, let's be honest, we're just talking, and one, this would all have to, anything that we talk about has to be vetted, right? It has to go through the process that it needs to go through. But you know what? What doesn't happen if you don't talk about things and make suggestions? Nothing
Right.
happens, and we continue in the rut that we're currently in.
Right.
So the comment is if it's not working, then shouldn't we do something different?
Right. I'm sitting here with loosely formulated ideas
Correct.
and kind of struggling about explaining it, but the Democrats have been doing this for years and have been talking with the experts, and
Still have no solution
they
or
have no
ideas.
solutions,
Yeah.
and they won't tell you what their ideas are.
Yeah.
So
And that's the reason why we have you here on the Barre Beat, so that you can tell us what your ideas are.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we want to talk about, because we did touch on crime, but do we want to talk about drugs?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
So I know certainly within Barre City, one of the outstanding problems, or significant problems that we have in our community, is the proliferation of drugs. It feels like we don't go very long before we hear about another overdose, a death caused by it, and we're constantly hearing about overdoses, people being found in their car, unresponsive, or found at their house. It's happening so much. As a senator, how do you see yourself impacting this crisis that we're dealing with?
Right. Well, of course, I'm still just a candidate, not elected, not subject to or exposed to the testimony that needs to be looked at. But years ago, we were all about punishment. And of course, Nancy Reagan had started the Just Say No campaign. Didn't work. People just didn't say no. But people did drugs, people got arrested, they got thrown in jail. It didn't solve the problem. We started moving towards a treatment system, which is important. Drug addicts are addicts. They're addicted. It's a mental illness, or it's an illness, not a mental illness, a physical illness, and that's real, and it needs to be taken into account. And I believe in treatment for drug addiction, but it doesn't always work. And how many times can you just forgive somebody and say, okay, we'll send you back to treatment? There comes a point where you still have to say, yeah, we want you to get the treatment, but you're also going to do time for this. There has to be a penalty. And where that line gets drawn, I don't know. But again, what we're doing isn't working.
That's because we don't have enough treatment. the word on the street, or the word that we get from legislation, is that we have all kinds of treatment. It's there if you want it, but there's not. And I can tell you firsthand, as a mom of an addict, finding treatment and getting treatment is not easy, and it's
Right.
extremely expensive. There are two programs in the state of Vermont, and treatment is considered a 21 days tops, but a 14-day generally stay at a treatment center. That's a glorified detox. And then you come out and you go back to your same very environment with next to no help, no support, there's no real mission of how we're going to get you. Really, if you're going to send them to someplace for 14, 21 days even, then send them to a different county after. Mix it up a little bit. Put them in a place where that's the least that can be done. But when we start talking about treatment and whether or not you go to jail and all of those sorts of things, I too agree. If you continue to commit these crimes, especially violent crimes, and you can't continue to use the excuse it's because I'm an addict. You can't keep getting that
Right.
slap on the wrist. That cannot happen. But we invest a lot of money in the state to a lot of things like safe injection and the constant education of things that or support of these 14-day facilities that really don't do anything.
Right.
They literally will detox somebody. All it does is give them a breath, take a deep breath. They get a roof over their head. They've got 3 meals a day. They've got hot showers. They've got all of that. So it gives them a little break and a little rest so that they can come out running. They're ready to go when they hit the streets again. Because they're right back in the same old situation that they were in. So, I'm hoping that people like you are more open to actual treatment, and treatment that is affordable and that is longer term and even mandatory longer term. When, and I know it can happen because, like you said, look to other states. Are right next door in New Hampshire, what they do and what they model. Most of their programs are a minimum of a year.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, talking about when somebody repeats, maybe they need to do some time. Maybe that time isn't done in a jail cell. It's done in a treatment facility. Mandate the longer, that's your sentence, is you're going to get long-term treatment. Because as you said, people come out, they go back to the same environment they came from, same friends, same enablers, and so they just had their little vacation, and now they're back with their friends and doing the same thing they did before.
Right, and sometimes they're back with their friends because that's all they know. They come back, they're homeless, so they're going to couch surf. Those are their people.
Yep.
We've given them no other people. They have no, some of them their whole lives have been drugs, and they grow up in it. It's the family, it's the whole thing. And I've said it a million times. I would have loved to see them take the old Windsor prison and turn it into a treatment center.
Yep.
But they're going to turn it into housing because it's such a booming area down there in Windsor. But take the fence down. You get this huge property. Teach them skills. Let them get their GED. Like, literally, let's support them in their sobriety for 1 full year and see what happens. You produce productive members of society then, instead of the catch and release all the time. And the catch and release never surprises me because we're asking them to come home and do the same exact thing. But you may have added an appointment with a PO or a this, that, or the other thing, but you don't have a car to get there. Or you may have a car, but you don't have gas because you don't have a job, because you can't have a job because then you're not able to do the treatments that you're supposed to do, the meetings, the UA or whatever. So you steal the gas. I mean, it's just this vicious cycle.
Yeah. And I mean, and also addiction comes in many different forms. This November, I'll be 15 years tobacco free.
Yeah.
I was addicted since I was, I think, 16 or 17 years old, and I quit in 2009, and never touched one since. But leading up to that, I quit numerous times. And part of that was, at one point I quit for 9.5 weeks, I think it was, and then I had a drink, and the drink led to a cigarette, and there I went again.
Yeah.
So again, it's coming out of
Yeah.
the treatment, and going back to the old situation.
People,
and
places,
go
and
together.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the Barre Justice Center, the Greater Barre Community Justice Center, which has the COSA program, which is Circle of Support and Accountability for people that are coming out of the prison system.
Which is a great program.
Yeah. Yeah. It surrounds folks with people that are going to try to lift them up versus, bring them down into the clutches that they were once in. So I want to take a few minutes. We're getting close to that 1 hour. I know that you have been a big proponent of the Vermont GOP's Get Real campaign.
Yes.
And I just want to go down through that and just get your thoughts on it. So the Get Real, the first one is the G, which is Global Warming Solutions Act reform, restore CO2 reductions mandates to goals, and remove provisions allowing anyone to sue the state at taxpayer expense. So do you want to add any comments?
So that lawsuit about the provision to allow anybody to sue, normally states are exempt from prosecution or lawsuits based on legislation because the issue is standing. Nobody has the standing to sue the state over something that was legislated. But in passing the Global Warming Solutions Act of 2020, the state, the legislature actually granted anyone, anywhere on the planet to sue the state of Vermont for not meeting up to the standards set, and mandating that the people of Vermont pay for the cost of defending ourselves against that law, or those lawsuits. And now the Conservation Law Foundation has served notice that indeed they are suing us over it because we haven't even met the first benchmark and even provided information on how we plan to meet that benchmark. And we really have no defense. The only way to put a stop to this is to repeal that law and return those mandates to goals. Some of them are decent goals. I think the timeline for those goals is off, and I'm opposed to any of these rules that set mandates with deadlines. The electric vehicle timeline and all these things.
Get triggered.
You're right.
Yeah, it's just one more mandate with one more deadline that we're not going to meet, and when we don't meet it, there's problems. And we're with the EVs, for instance, we're setting up setting ourselves up for when we can't keep the infrastructure up. And we can't upgrade the infrastructure fast enough to keep up with the number of electric vehicles that will be on the road. I believe in manufacturers making a product that people want. And if they make a product that people want, people will buy that product. As people buy that product, we will upgrade our infrastructure to meet the demand. It'll happen at a natural pace. but they're out there setting these deadlines. And 2030 is only 5 years off, or is it 6 years off? And
It's pretty close, actually.
Yeah.
You're probably close.
Yeah.
It's now we're close to
Right,
November.
October, right,
Right.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
we're
it's
pushing
almost-
5 years.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
right.
Right. So there's no way we can meet those goals in that timeline. And of course, anything the government does runs into delays and cost overruns. Isn't that just a law? I
How
think?
many times have we exceeded everybody's going to have broadband and great connectivity
Right.
all across the state of Vermont? How many
Right.
times has that changed?
I have
Yeah.
an answer
Right?
for that.
Right?
A couple cell towers, man.
Yeah, yeah, but
Two birds
but
with
no,
one
it's
stone.
true. But what you say, I mean, you just keep kicking it down the road. You keep increasing the timeline. You keep
Yep.
because we're not ready.
Right.
Period.
And I think it's just a law that if the government does something, it has to get delayed and cost more than what they told us.
What's the comment that you made about suing the state, giving up. I think the term is sovereign immunity, which is what they gave up. A
Right.
legislative body gave up our sovereign immunity, which to me just seems dumb.
Yeah.
For lack of a, and Glenn said it. He said it first. Glenn said that's dumb,
Yeah.
and I would agree, Glenn. It is dumb, and it's unfortunate and stupid.
I agree.
Yes. So another, the next one is educational. We kind of already touched on this. Educational excellence, get political agendas out of the classroom, repeal non-core curriculum mandates, and emphasize reading, math, and science.
Yes.
Certainly something that, we see in our school systems. It certainly, you see that decrease in those core curriculum, academics.
Yeah. Ideology should be taught at home.
Yes, that's true. And then we just barely talked about the electric vehicles, which we didn't really talk about because
Michael
it would
hates
have
talking about it.
Oh,
hate
okay.
talking-
Yeah, it makes him
For the-
quiver.
It does.
Gets all red from the neck
It
up.
makes me very angry because I don't want to be forced to get an EV.
Right, he just
Right.
wants to do it if he wants to.
Right.
Correct.
As
Right.
I said, I believe in business companies making a product that people want.
Right.
And
And
if they build a good product, people will want it.
and if the EV came at the same price as my current one, I'd buy it. Anyway, transportation infrastructure, fix our roads,
Yeah.
prioritize local
Roads,
projects.
bridges, and infrastructure. Broadband.
Yes,
I would add the broadband to that.
yes, that is an infrastructure project for certain.
Yeah.
We received a boatload of money for broadband, and unfortunately I'm unprepared in the details on it, but I do know that
I'm shocked.
I know. Ooh, ouch!
The state?
Ouch!
Or the city.
State.
Yeah.
The state received a bunch of money. Man, that was salty. That was salty, Don. That was
Well,
salty.
you usually are prepared.
Okay.
I love it.
Man. Prioritize local projects to assist with flood mitigation and climate resiliency, which, let's touch on that just a bit. Although I know I'm keeping you over here, but your thoughts on projects for resiliency, and are you a dredger?
I'm a selective dredger, or if whatever we're doing, if we're not calling it dredging,
River sedimentation maintenance.
right? And I guess
I
there's a
love our
difference.
city manager.
I guess there's a difference in that what they're doing is just scraping accumulation and not digging down deeper. But it needs to be done, and selective dredging in certain places. We need to upgrade our box culverts under the roads so that they don't plug up. You have to take into consideration that as we grow as a population, we're building more homes, we're creating more impervious rooftops, more impervious driveways. We're putting up solar panels out in our fields. That's more impervious surface causing water runoff. That water isn't soaking right into the ground and it's coming down into our streams. Our streams that used to accommodate the flow are now getting overloaded by all that runoff. There's a whole lot we need to do. We need to consider putting solar panels on top of already built structures. Rooftops here on Main Street, for instance. The parking lot at the high school maybe could put up solar panels that would double as canopies over the cars, blocking them from the sun, so that when you get back in the car at the end of the day, it's cooler.
Or not covered in snow.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are things we can do to put those on surfaces that are already creating that runoff instead of creating new runoff. But that's something we need to consider, is that...
And that gives money back.
Right. So as these places are built in the outskirts that create more runoff, we need to upgrade the infrastructure downstream because it's not meeting up to the demands. We need to focus on reestablishing the channels in the streams, stream bed stabilization projects. There's a number of things we need to do. But that is where this money should be spent, not on trying to change the climate.
Yeah, because the fact, I mean, folks, I'll just state, let's be honest. What is it that Vermont can do? We're probably one of the greenest states. Yeah. I mean, honestly, so we certainly have to focus our attentions on the mitigation portion of it versus the changing. I think that's a really common sense comment that you just made there that people really need to think about, because I know you, Don. You're pro environment, right?
Yeah.
You believe that we should be good stewards of the land that we have, and 100%. But you also, we have to be common sense, and that's a great common sense approach to it. R for regulatory reform, which we've already dealt with that, the Act 250. Environment, we just touched on that as well. And affordability, that's what this is all about. Don Koch is all about affordability. Are you familiar with the Taxpayer Bill of Rights? And let's see.
Yep. So it's something that doesn't exist. It needs to be passed. They passed one in Colorado. And initially they weren't in favor of it, but it's working very well out there, and we need to do something similar here.
And then the last one, and we've already touched on some of this as well, which is law and order, and fund and support our law enforcement. And I'm pretty sure that you're a pro officer and police officer.
Absolutely.
No getting rid of qualified immunity for you, correct?
Not at all.
All right. So, yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we did get, we're at the 1 hour mark. Certainly don't want to keep you from home and family. So I want to give you an opportunity to give your final pitch, why Washington County should, or Senate Washington County, because it's not fully Washington County. But
right. Washington Senatorial District.
Yes.
All of Washington County, plus the Orange County towns of Orange and Braintree, and the Lamoille County town of Stowe. And you should vote for me because I'm running for affordability and common sense, and to be in constant communication with the voters. I will not vote for any Rube Goldberg law that I cannot explain. If I don't understand it and cannot explain it, I won't vote for it. I will keep in communication, and I will always tell the truth. That said, I can't do it without funding. We're 3 weeks from the election and 1 day, and I've got expenses that I need to pay for to seal the deal and get this done. And I appreciate all the support I can get. You can donate on my webpage, donaldkochforvt.org, or you can mail me a check to Donald Koch for Vermont, 326 Lowry Road, Barre, 05641.
And I just dropped the link for your WinRed account.
Great.
So folks can donate there as well. I dropped the link to your website earlier, and certainly would encourage folks to go to donaldkochforvt.org so that you can learn more about Don Koch. And
don't forget to sign up for my webpage, or for my email list. That's on the webpage as well.
That's right. All right. Well, Don, thank you. I'm just going to drop the link to your webpage one more time. I do want to say thank you for joining us on the Barre Beat. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and hopefully we'll get to see more of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
And thank you, everyone, for watching the Barre Beat podcast live from 802 Scoop. And with that, we hope you have a wonderful...
And we'll see everybody at 3 o'clock. Well, you will.
Yes.
You will be here with Gina Galfetti and Topper McVaughn.
Correct.
At 3 o'clock.
Correct.
And there will not be a Barre Beat this evening because of these two shows. And we are ramping things up to get you as many candidate interviews as we possibly can between now and the 5th of November. Because we have invited everybody.
We have. All right. Have a great day, folks. See you in a couple.